Now let's flip the switch, turn on the Fox News at Night spotlight on the mainstream media with District Media Group President Beverly Hallberg and Newsbusters Managing Editor Curtis Houck. As always, we have highlights and lowlights of this week's news coverage. Thank you both for joining us. Beverly, I want to start with yours because I love it. I mean, this is from a member of the British Parliament. His name is Rob Roos, and he was questioning a Pfizer exec about the vaccine. And the Pfizer exec then confirms that the vaccine was never tested to see if it would actually prevent transmission of COVID. And Roos posts this, quoting here, "This removes the entire legal basis for the COVID passport. The COVID passport that led to massive institutional discrimination as people lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal." Pfizer then responded saying, "Look, we never said we tested it to see if it would give you COVID or not, or prevent you from getting COVID or not." And you think that was the whole point. Tens of thousands of people lost their jobs, and you weren't allowed to go anywhere unless you could prove that you could prevent the getting and spreading of COVID, and that was the vaccine. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and people were even called grandma killers and ostracized from society for having questions about the vaccine. And so this is my media high because this information wasn't suppressed by social media. We saw this circulated. We saw broadcast news covering it. We're covering it tonight. And so I am so thankful for Robert Roos for asking this question and finally getting to the bottom of it. Now, it is 2 years too late, but my hope is that it points to the information of not censoring questions that people have and the importance of the media to hold government officials accountable.
It is phenomenal. I want to go now to your top one, your high, Curtis. This is NBC correspondent Dasha Burns in her interview with John Fetterman, right? And she says that he was having trouble understanding small talk and needed the questions to be closed captioned. Listen to her and we'll get your response.
Walk me through why we need the closed captioning, how it works.
It's really just how things happen, because I sometimes will hear things in a way that's not perfectly clear. So I use captioning. So I'm able to see what you're saying in captioning.
And Savannah, we did find that in small talk before the interview, without captioning, it seemed it was difficult for Fetterman to understand our conversation.
And she was questioned, by the way, from Savannah Guthrie, kind of called out by Savannah Guthrie for what she was reporting there. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Trace, I thought that was particularly interesting. But, you know, the reason Dasha Burns is my media highlight of the week is because she's doing what the liberal media are refusing to do. She actually sat down with John Fetterman for an in-person interview. He's done a few interviews before with Stephanie Ruhle and Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC, but they've been taped and remote, so you're not sure about what's going on, how much is edited. Other than the fact that she didn't press him on abortion, you know, she really pinned him down about his fitness physically and mentally to be a senator from the great state of Pennsylvania, and it's one of the closest races on the map. She's slated to interview Dr. Oz tomorrow morning on Today's Show, so if she's tough on him as well, I think we can chalk that up as a big media win.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, she was being honest. Both of your lows are kind of the same story. It's Dasha Burns being trashed by her colleagues, her media colleagues, and those around other networks. Watch this, and we'll get both of your response.
And we're talking about this interview. We're talking about what it might mean to voters. But there's been a really visceral reaction to what's been happening with the journalist.
This journalist, Dasha Burns, has become part of the story. She made a comment. It wasn't clear he, meaning John Fetterman, was understanding our conversation. And with that, lots of other journalists who had interviewed Fetterman unleashed on her.
I actually thought it was inappropriate that she said during small talk before our interview.
Maybe she's bad at small talk. Maybe it was her.
Maybe it's her.
Beverly, you talk about the left eating their own. I mean, this is unbelievable. You say something about a Democratic candidate, I don't care who you are, they're going to come for you.
Yeah, it seems like the one crime you can't commit in journalism is actually holding a Democrat accountable. If you make them look bad, all of a sudden you're the bad actor. And so she was accused of bad journalistic ethics, inappropriate. They were saying that maybe her small talk just wasn't good small talk, and that's why he didn't understand. When typically a journalist in this scenario who is able to expose some things that a campaign has not been willing to do so, usually that journalist is called brave. That journalist is lifted up. But again, unless you are lifting up the the Democrat for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons, this is the type of treatment you get, sadly. But I'm glad she's holding her ground. She's standing up for her reporting.
Listen, if I went and interviewed somebody and noticed something and reported what I noticed, and one of my colleagues called me out and everybody else did, there'd be some pushback. Your final thoughts on this, Curtis?
Yeah, I just think the media blowback has been incredible. It's been the AP, BuzzFeed, The Hill, The New York Times, The View, and The Washington Post are just a few of the outlets that have gone after her. To their credit, NBC has stood by her. I can't take credit for this line, but I haven't seen the media circle the wagons this much around a story since, I don't know, The New York Post and Hunter Biden.
Yeah, it's been a while. Curtis, Beverly, thank you both.